They're telling all of the women to become lesbians, to go scissor each other. That's literally what they're telling them to do. That's why their birth rate is so low. Alright folks, so this is video number 260 on my channel, and this is my most important upload so far. Please listen very carefully to everything I'm about to say. I'm going to talk about the most depressing country on earth, where the ideology of feminism has led to this massive gender war, and it is about to completely destroy the country. I'm talking about Korea. No, not North Korea, South Korea. Well, you might think that sounds ridiculous. They have one of the highest life expectancy in the world. They have one of the best healthcare systems in the world. They have a literacy rate of over 99%. So how can they be the most depressing country in the world? It is because of one ideology: feminism. Radicalized feminism. Okay? And if you're wondering, for the people living in America, living in Canada, living in Europe, and if you're wondering where society is going to be 10, 15, 20 years from now, the country you need to look to, it's South Korea. That is a window towards the future, because the birth rate have fallen so low. Ethnic South Koreans could go extinct a generation from now. I'm being serious. So the replacement fertility rate is 2.1 children per woman. You have two parents and make two children. That's a population stabilizes. And anytime you fall below that, there's going to be an issue. Right now, across the EU, the average birth rate is somewhere around 1.3, right? Canada has a huge problem. Canada's birth rate is currently the lowest it's ever been. It's at 1.33. And that's with immigrants bumping up the number. If you take out the non-European immigrants, just let's say just the white Canadians, I would say it's below 1. This entire ideology is genocidal. And that's just the raw facts. There's no way of dancing around it. As of right now, in 2023, South Korea just set a new Guinness World Record for the lowest birth rate that's ever been recorded in the country at 0.72. 0.72 children per woman. So, do you know what has happened? So in Korea, the crisis with feminism peaked in 2016. So at the Gangnam subway station in South Korea's capital of Seoul in 2016, there was this insane man that he murdered a woman in the subway station, and he claimed that his motive was that he killed her because she was a woman. So this, massive case of a male misogynist murdering a woman, this case blew up all over the country, and all the women started absolutely hating all the men. They say, "Oh, men are evil, men are rapists, and the men are committing all these crimes, and we need to completely destroy men." Well, it goes much deeper than that. But okay, I just want to ask all of you ladies something. So one guy, one insane, crazy misogynist, one mass murderer, he killed this woman in the subway station. So you're categorizing all of men. That's 4 billion, almost 4 billion men on Earth. So you're putting all of them into one category. All men are rapists. All men are terrorists. All men are murderers. Like, do you not see how ridiculous it is? And the problem runs a lot deeper in this. For example, in South Korea, it's not just the Western countries that's bringing up the wage gap. I have to keep coming up to this. They say amongst the OECD countries, that's some of the most advanced, some of the most developed countries in the world. South Korea has the largest gender pay gap at 31%. I think in US and Canada is somewhere around 17 to 18%. Once again, this is a 100% hoax, okay? This was created by these BS liberal woke politicians, this concept. For example, this wage gap, it compares all of the jobs that the men are working versus all of the jobs that women are working. You can't compare apple to oranges. And I keep mentioning this. A woman's brain is completely different versus a man's brain. Okay, women are more interested in people. That's why they choose jobs like nursing, like being a teacher, like pre-K education, like a personal support worker. And men are more interested in things. That's why they go into the STEM field. They go into science, they go to technology, they go into math, they become engineers. That's why they get paid more. Obviously, if you're an engineer, you're going to make more money versus someone that is a personal support worker or a nurse. That's why men's making more money, because women keep on choosing jobs that pay less. And there's also some programs in place. They keep pushing at universities. They keep saying more women in STEM. But if you walk into, let's say, a math program or a science program or engineering program at any university, you'll find that over 90% of the students that's being enrolled in these programs, it's always going to be men, because men and women will always be different, and you cannot force this ideology onto others. And another huge reason why this gender pay gap exists, I keep telling people, is that because women bear children. That's why the vast majority of women with university degrees, well, A, either never get married, B, they will never have children. Because think about it like this. You graduate from university, you were 22, 23 years old. Let's say I live in Ottawa, the capital of Canada. Let's say you get a solid government job at the same time as a guy in your class is graduating. Okay, you both start at the same position. Let's say you make 60K a year Canadian. That's around 45K dollars US, right? That's pretty good for starting wage at the government. However, let's say 5 years from now, if the guy never takes any time off, he grinds his way to the top of the corporate ladder, right? He gets promoted. He's going to be making probably somewhere around 120K or 130K Canadian a year. If this woman at the same time, she decides to get married at 22, 23, and she has 3 children for the next 5 years, and she takes 3 maternity leaves, okay? So that means she's really only worked 2 years. Obviously, 5 years from now, this guy's going to be making 120 to 130K a year, while the woman, her wage has not really gone up at all. She's going to go up from 60 to possibly 65 to 70K a year. I agree. Having children will severely restrict your ability to make money, right? And that is why that's happening. And it's unbelievable. These feminists, no matter how much you talk to them about this, they won't acknowledge this fact. Because when you factor in everything, if man and woman are doing the same job, with the same qualifications, same work experience, women actually get paid way more than men. And I mentioned this in the Google lawsuit in 2018, where the woman filed a lawsuit against Google for a gender pay discrimination. And when Google actually released all of their audit, all of their payrolls, they actually found that in 2018, men were being severely underpaid by 10%. So they actually had to pay out a bonus of 9.7 million US dollars to over 10,000 Google employees in 2018. This is how ridiculous this concept is, and they keep pushing that in South Korea. And not just that, on top of this, do you know why the birth rate is so low? Here's how I think this whole insane feminist ideology started, because it has nothing to do with empowering women. It started by a bunch of insane, crazy, woke lesbians that wants to absolutely destroy men, and they want to destroy their society. That's how Black Lives Matter started. It was started by 3 morbidly obese black lesbians who absolutely hate men, not just black men, just men in general. Right? It's led by Patrisse Cullors, who has done nothing for the black community. She stole all of the $80 million that was raised in 2020. You can look up their tax return. They swallowed up every single penny. So right now, all these feminists in South Korea, they're telling their women, so there's 4 no's, the 4 taboos that you must never commit. And listen to this. If you're not telling me that this is a man-hating ideology, I don't know what it is. So they want women to have no heterosexual sex, okay? No heterosexual relationships, no heterosexual marriage, and obviously number 4, no children. They're telling all of the women to become lesbians, to go scissor each other. That's literally what they're telling them to do. That's why their birth rate is so low. And that's why in Korea right now, there are so many male stalkers, there are so many rapists, there are so many sex offenders throughout the country. I agree. There's a rapid increase in these kinds of crimes. If you ever go to Korea, you need one of those devices you can probably find on Amazon to scan the hotel rooms and the lobbies for hidden cameras. Because right now, it's no longer safe for women. There are these cameras everywhere. What do you think happens when 80 to 90% of men in South Korea, they have zero aspect for marriage, they have zero aspect for relationships or starting a family? Because before, let's say if it's 9 or 10 p.m. on a Friday or Saturday night, normally they will be spending quality time with their family, with their daughter, with their wife, right, and going on dates. But now they have no aspect for dating. Guess what? They're going to turn into a sexual predator. And the men in South Korea, they have been cucked so much. If you look at the men's testosterone levels in the past few decades, it has dropped so much to the lowest level in the world. And if you're wondering why the men's testosterone level keeps dropping, it's not even about even having sex, right? Ladies, sometimes, when you're feeling depressed, when you're alone, it's not possible for a woman to be incel. Like any woman that weighs 250 or even 300 pounds can log on to Tinder at 1 p.m. on a Monday afternoon. And at 1:30 p.m., she'll be having sex with some guy that's much better than her. Okay? That's just reality. And sometimes, even if you don't want sex, right, you just want to go on a date. You want some guy to be nice to you, to buy you flowers. You want some guy to hug, to cuddle, right? You just want to spend some quality time to talk to someone. You can always have that. When the guy is alone, alone. I'm talking about the absence of a touch, just a tap on the shoulder, a handshake, a hug. Vast majority of men cannot even get that. In countries like in Japan, in South Korea, and China, 70 to 80% of men are virgins into their 30s. I would say for at least 50% of men, the only sex they will ever have in their life it's going to strip clubs or getting some cheap street hooker. So in South Korea, right now they have many laws and bills in place that forces many workplaces to hire 50% women. And do you know what that means, right? And I keep bringing this up. For example, if a company is looking to hire 100 engineers, right? Guess what? Over 90% of the applicants will be men because women are just simply not interested in being engineers, okay? So what happens when you try to force the 50-50 quota? You're going to have to hire engineers who are way less qualified. So these quotas, they have actually forced millions of men in South Korea into poverty, because they had the best grades coming out of high school, best grades in university, in grad school, they got their PhDs, but they wouldn't get hired just because they're a man. And there are women who are way less qualified. There are women who barely pass all their entrance exams. They squeezed by their degree with a 60-65% average, and they're being offered to the equivalent of a six-figure jobs. And it doesn't matter what you say, this is true throughout history. Unless a society can create good high-paying jobs for men, okay? If this does not happen, if a society cannot provide these good high-paying jobs for men, a society will completely collapse within itself. Once you give all these jobs to women, guess what? When a woman makes money, she says, I'm independent from men. I'm going to take the money. I'm going to buy Gucci. I'm going to buy Louis Vuitton. I'm going to go on a shopping spree. I'm going to go on vacation throughout the world. She says that when I make that six-figure salary, I'm independent from men. When the man finally makes money, when the man gets to 100K, 150K, 200K a year, she's going to say that I can finally find a wife. I can finally start a family. That's how society passes this wealth on to the next generation. Men will date down. Okay, a man that's let's say making $300,000 a year will have no issue going to a really poor country. Let's say that's what passport bros are. They have no problem going to, let's say, Thailand or the Philippines or Ecuador. They can find a woman that grew up in poverty. There's no such thing as a passport sister. You don't see a successful corporate executive woman who's making 200K, 300K, 400K a year going to a really poor country, finding a guy that's broke, and she will say, I will lift you out of poverty. It's the exact same thing in China. Right now, there are tens of millions of leftover women. There's a term for it. It used to be that when a woman turns 27, she's called a 剩女, or a leftover woman, okay? They changed the age to 30, and because so many women are freaking out, because there are so many of these successful business women making insane salaries, but they all end up dying alone. They end up turning 40, and they're still single and they're childless. They cannot find a man because a woman will not date down. That's just a biological fact. Women will only marry men who make more money than them. So when you force these gendered quotas onto the workplace, it completely destroys men. It forces all the qualified men out of the STEM fields, out of the workplace, out of the government jobs. And you give these jobs to women, the woman makes the money, she will not date down. So her pool of potential future partners and husbands shrinks to a very tiny percentage of the population. She has an extremely difficult time finding a match. That's why all successful career women will end up dying alone. That's why Korea's birth rate is so low. And if you don't think this gender quota is evil, okay, let me ask you this. For example, in South Korea, it is mandatory for every single man to be conscripted into the military for 2 years. The best time of your life, best opportunity. For example, a South Korean woman can straight up graduate from university at 22 and get a really solid job in the STEM field or a government job. And in 5 or 6 years' time, she could be making the equivalent of, over 100,000 US dollars a year. However, right after a guy graduates from university, he has to get drafted to the military and possibly serve in the demilitarized zone, right? Where at any time conflict between North and South Korea could break out, right? None of the women faces the military conscription, okay? Should we draft the women into the military? And if you want to push this gender gap, okay? If you want to push this, should we have 50% bricklayers for women? Because 99% of the bricklayers in South Korea, in fact worldwide, are men. Should we have a 50-50 gender quotas for garbage collectors? Should we have this quota for people working in the sewage systems? What about people working on oil rigs, or coal mines, or auto mechanics, or people working on those ships in the North Sea, where oftentimes they have to be away from their families, their loved ones, for 3-4 months at a time? Why don't they talk about the fact that worldwide, over 95% of the prison population are men? Why don't they ever talk about worldwide, over 90% of the drug overdoses are men? Why don't they ever talk about that 80% of the suicides worldwide are men? Okay, 850,000 men worldwide committed suicide last year, and nobody wants to talk about this epidemic. This entire system was created to destroy men. And here's the thing, you want to push people to become lesbians. Let me tell you something. Lesbian relationships never last, okay? And I think it's a good thing that all 50 US states and Canada legalized the same-sex marriage, because you can see the statistics. Look up the statistics. In 2016, the divorce rate for lesbian couples in the United States after 10 years of marriage was 76%. Okay, in 2017 was 72%. In 2018 was 74%. This is after 10 years of marriage. The divorce rate for lesbian couple versus gay couple is 3 times higher. Sure, guys have their problems. So on average for a gay couple, the divorce rate after 10 years is between 20 to 30%, which, that's still pretty high after 10 years. So let's say 2 guys, the chances of 2 guys getting married and staying all the way until the end after 50 to 60 years, I would say it's maybe 50-50, right? You have, it's a coin flip. You have 1 in 2 chance. However, there's absolutely 0 case scenario of 2 lesbians making it all the way to the end. And look up the reason why, okay, the lesbians get divorced. The top 3 reasons: number 1, adultery. Number 2, marriage inequality. 2 lesbians go on a date, who pays for dinner? Right? They have these issues all the time. All these feminists, they want to be equal, but they want the guy to pay 100% of the bills. That's just reality. Number 3, domestic violence. Ladies, if you don't want your man to hit you, why is it okay for you to hit your man? And this is not just happening in the West. Many Chinese women, I've seen this firsthand. I've seen my sister viciously attack her ex-boyfriends. Yes, she's been hit back before, and she has been sent to the hospital twice. She has received stitches. But however, if you decide to hit your man 53 times, and on the 54th time, your boyfriend finally loses it, he hits you back, right? And he sends you to the hospital. Whose fault is it, ladies? That is 100% your fault. Do you not see how insane this is? To all the ladies out there that keep saying that women are so oppressed, do you know the 2 countries with the highest life expectancy for women? Do you know where they are? Japan and South Korea. The average Japanese woman will live to 87. The average South Korean woman will live to 86. If women are so oppressed, how does that happen? Do you know what the retirement age is for Chinese women? 55. 55. That is universal across China. The retirement age for men across China is anywhere between 60 to 65, depending on the industry and the sector that you work in. The average life expectancy for Chinese men, 77. For Chinese women, 82. So on average, a Chinese woman gets to enjoy 27 years of retirement. No man out there will ever complain about these things. Men have been protecting and providing for women for millenniums now, for all of modern human history. We don't ask for any appreciation, and we just ask that you don't hate us. 99.9% of casualties during war have all been men. That's why in Russia there's a huge shortage of men, because during World War II, the Soviet Union lost 26.6 million people, 14% of their population, and the vast majority of the casualties were men. This causes a massive bottleneck. That's why they don't push for feminism in Russia or in Poland or in Romania or in Ukraine, because there's a huge shortage of men everywhere. Also, in South Korea, okay, you have 2 choices when you choose to go to school. It's either a mixed school with man and woman or a women's only school, okay? You don't think that's a privilege? They have these departments set up to help at these female-only schools so by the time you graduate, you're guaranteed to get into university, and there are women's-only universities as well. And as soon as a woman graduates from one of these universities, she's guaranteed a job. None of these programs or places ever exist for men. When the man graduates, many of them are forced out by these bullshit gender quotas. Every woman is guaranteed a white-collar job. Okay, millions of men have been forced into poverty. Okay, is this what you want to talk about, equality? This is what's led to this transgenderism movement, because so many men have grown sick and tired of this. They're saying that, you know what, I identify as a woman. I want to go to women's school. I want to be included in the 50% gender. I want the diversity, equity, inclusion. Okay, feminism has 100% caused the transgenderism movement. You asked for it. You wanted equality. You want to push XX equals XY. You want a woman to become man. And this is where our society has led us to today. Another reason why the lesbian divorce rate is so high, I can tell you, is that women are just naturally more inclined to feel negative emotions. It's pretty obvious to see why, because women have a biological clock. Ladies, it doesn't matter like how hot or how beautiful you are. As every single day that ticks by, you're getting less and less beautiful. What makes you think that by the time you're 30, 35, or 40, you'll be able to compete with an 18 to 22-year-old? Any guy that meets your dating requirements, all the top tier men, in the top 10% in terms of height, in the top 10% in terms of income earners, all of those guys who have built up a successful career, they have built up their status, they're all going to want younger women between 18 to 22-year-olds. That's just a biological fact. It's just like the fact that a woman will always choose men who are way taller than them and make way more money than them. And you cannot fight biological reality. This is why lesbian relationships don't last, and they keep telling all these South Korean women to become lesbians. It's insanity, because you have negative on negative and this massive negative emotions. And the reason why South Korea is the most depressing country on earth is because that vast majority of the men, 70 to 80%, have absolute zero sex, not even sex. They have no prospect for going on dates. They can't even hold a girl's hand or have a hug. That's why their testosterone level is so low. That's why they turn into murderers and rapists. Because they say, you know what? Fuck all of these women. They don't want me. They want to become lesbians. They want to hate men. I'm going to stalk them. I'm going to put hidden cameras everywhere, in all the hotel rooms, in all their dormitories, in all the female schools. In South Korea, it is no longer safe for a woman to just simply go out for a walk at the park late at night, because there are stalkers and rapists everywhere. This is what happens. This is why society is so dangerous, when you create a massive population of young, involuntarily celibate men. This is, I mentioned before, like the problem in the Middle East, where all the rich and wealthy men scoop up all the women. All the Saudi princes have 10, 20, 30 wives, and the vast majority of young Muslim men are involuntarily celibate. And when they have zero prospect for dating, for family, for marriage, they turn vicious, they turn bitter, they turn rageful. They become a terrorist. They join ISIS with the goal of destroying the world. And this is what South Korea has turned into. It is projected that by 2030, South Korea's birth rate will drop to 0.4 children per family. 0.4. And they say that by 2100, the average age of a South Korean will be over 60. Over 60, okay? You will have a bunch of single, miserable old people, and they're going to be sitting at home and wondering what the hell happened. They're going to watch some Netflix documentary on history, and where the documentary is going to talk about, this is South Korea 150 years ago. There used to be a concept called nuclear family, and this is a mother, this is a father, these are grandparents and their grandchildren playing at the park, at the school. And this is what school used to be like. And unfortunately, in South Korea, thousands of these schools, they've all been torn down because everybody stopped having children. They've all been turned into hospitals. They've been turned into medical clinics. They've been turned into retirement homes. And all of these people are going to be sitting there wondering, so what the hell are children? What the hell is a family? The vast majority of men throughout history, they were all incels. They were involuntarily celibate. That's why so many men voluntarily became eunuchs. They had their balls chopped off so they can enter the royal palace in China to become eunuchs in the imperial harem in order to make some cash, because they know that they have no chance of ever finding a wife or reproduce in their lifetime. It is not possible for a woman to be incel. Any woman that ends up being alone, if you're single, childless, and at 40 and no longer fertile, that is all of your fault. You had your chance. At one time you were 18. At one time you were 22, 24, 25. You were getting attention from all kinds of men from many different parts of the world, coming from different cultures. Men who are successful, men who meet your height requirements, they meet your income requirements, and you decided to mess around. You decided to get ran through. You decided to have your hot girl summer. You wasted all of your prime. And now you're sitting there in your 40s, in your 50s, your 60s, and you end up alone. You end up with a bunch of cats mailing at you. You're sitting on your couch drinking some wine, watching some stupid Netflix series that is 100% woke and offers no educational value. I can tell you this right now, okay? Right now in South Korea, almost every single woman that is single and childless after the age of 40 is taking antidepressants. How do I know this? I mentioned this before. Almost every single member of my family has been divorced, okay? My mom has the most divorces out of anybody I know. She's had 6 divorces. My sister twice. And had a bunch of cousins, aunts, everybody. And you know what's interesting? Every single one of those divorces, it was the woman who filed for the divorce, okay? Are you going to still blame everything on men? And I can tell you that, okay? my stepmom, her sisters, her cousins, my mom, everybody in the older generation that's past 40 now, that's been gone through many divorces, that's been ran through, every single one of them is taking antidepressants. My mom is constantly telling me that she constantly has suicidal thoughts. This is a biological instinct, okay? Men have gotten used to dying alone. Yes, it is rough, but most men will be able to handle it much better than a woman. A woman cannot handle being alone. Even my mom, she's 62 years old now. She's gone through so many divorces. I keep telling her that, you know what, this thing is not gonna work out. Dating is not working out. Just stay single. But she continues to find new boyfriends. And once every few months, and then she'll break up, you know. And after 3 months, she'll find another boyfriend, then another boyfriend, then another boyfriend. Doesn't matter how much I tell her. It's because she cannot handle being alone. Okay, this concept, this ideology, no real man, okay, will ever considering dating or marrying a feminist. I'm just telling you, it is a man-hating ideology, and it's absolutely 100% vicious. It's what's caused this insane transgenderism ideology. Feminism is a man-hating ideology, and transgenderism is a woman-hating ideology. This ideology has come full circle. So to all the young ladies out there, okay, that's you're in your prime, and I pray to God that you haven't been ran through. This is your best chance to secure a man. Do not become a feminist. Do not support this insanity. If you don't believe me, I'm serious. Look up the news on South Korea. Look up their gender war, and this is how they produce the most depressing country on earth. And this is why 100 years from now, South Koreans will go completely extinct if this trend continues, because they will literally reach the point where the fertility rate becomes zero, where nobody will ever reproduce, nobody will get married, nobody will have children anymore. And there's a new thing in Canada that's been allowed under the Trudeau government. It's called medical assisted suicide. This is what I'm talking about. The government doesn't give a shit about you. They don't care how much your rent is, or how much debt are you in, or how much you're struggling to date, even though you just want to be a nice person, you just want to have a partner, you just want to continue your bloodline. They don't care that you can't put food on the table. However, if you've reached an absolute dead end in life and you want to end it all, the government are willing to come in anytime to give you a lethal injection. Do you know why the government is doing this? Because it's simple. If an old guy who's collecting pension at 70, he's extremely depressed, he has no family, nobody to talk to. It's the same thing with an old grandma, right? And if all of her family have moved away and she's completely alone, and if they beg for that lethal injection, of course the government's gonna say yes, because that's one less pensioner, okay? That's the more money it goes to the government. Ladies, once you reach that stage, okay, you ever go to the graveyard? You ever look at those tombstones? If you look at the tombstones of dead soldiers of the war, every single name etched on there, it's a man's name. And sometimes it's just simply a name of an unknown soldier. The guy had no family, he had no wife, he had no children, he died alone, okay? However, if you go to the graveyard, you look at the tombstone of every single woman. What does it say on there? A loving mother, a loving grandmother, a loving wife. You know what's gonna happen soon? These first generation feminists, 50, 100 years from now, you're gonna go to the graveyard and you're going to look at their gravestones. You know what's gonna say? It's going to say Jane Smith, okay? Not a mother, not a grandmother, not a loving wife. Do you know what's gonna be carved onto the tombstone? That's your legacy, your pronoun. She, her, she, they, sie, their. This is my most dire warning to all of the young ladies who are supporting this ideology out there. Once you go past the age of 40, once you are infertile and you're single and childless, okay, you're going to be begging for that lethal injection from the Trudeau government, because you will be so lonely, no man will ever talk to you again. I have a better chance of having a one-night stand with Olivia Rodrigo versus a single woman getting married at 40, okay? All of your value has completely depreciated, and you have nothing left to offer to a man who is worth a husband material. The depression will run so deep, and you will spend the next 40, 50, 60, 70 years completely alone in isolation. That's the end goal of feminism. That's how South Korea became the most depressed country on earth. If you guys don't believe my story, take a vacation, go to South Korea, take a train, go to the countryside. You will see what I'm talking about. All you see is that schools are being closed down, They're being replaced with retirement homes and hospitals. All you see is old people everywhere. You don't see young loving couples walking down the streets holding hands anymore. You don't see the housewives coming out with baby strollers anymore. Okay? It's just a bunch of pissed off, miserable old people, and they're sitting there wondering, what the hell are children?